Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Janna Vallabha Girivardhari Gopi Janna Vallabha Girivardhari Yashoda Nandana Prajana Ranjana Yashoda Nandana Prajana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jam Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parivrajacharya Ashtotara Shata Shri Srimad His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Shri Guru and Shri Guranga. Kamaraj, do you think you could get the Bhagavatam, please? It's in the audio room. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So this morning we are reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 4, entitled Creation of the Fourth Order. Chapter 5 is... Oh, not chapter 5, sorry. I didn't have the book. Chapter 13, the descendants of Dhruva Maharaj, and we're on text 4. Swadharma Shilar Purushar Bhagavan Yagya Purushaha Ijimano Bhaktimata Narade Naritakila Sadharma Shila Purushar Bhagavan Yagya Purushaha Ijimano Bhaktimata Naradenerita kila Saddharma Shila Purusha Bhagavan Yagya Purushaha Yajamano Bhaktimata Naradenerita kila Alright, word by word translation. Sadharma Shilai, executing sacrificial duties. Purushai, by the men. Bhagavan, Supreme Personality of Godhead. Yogya Purushaha, the enjoyer of all sacrifices. Ijjamanaha, being worshipped. Bhakti Mata, by the devotee. Naradena, by Narada. Idataha, described. Kila, indeed. Translation. While the Prachetas were executing religious rituals and sacrificial ceremonies, and thus worshipping the Supreme Personality of Godhead for his satisfaction, the great sage Narada described the transcendental qualities of Dhruva Maharaj. Purport. Narada Muni is always glorifying the pastimes of the Lord. In this verse we see that not only does he glorify the Lord, but he also likes to glorify the devotees of the Lord. The great sage Narada's mission is to broadcast the devotional service of the Lord. For this purpose he has compiled the Narada Pancharatra, a directory of devotional service, so that devotees can always take information about how to execute devotional service and thus engage 24 hours a day in performing sacrifices for the pleasure of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. As stated in the Bhagavad Gita, the Lord has created 4 orders of social life, namely Brahman, Kshatriya, Vaishya, and Shudra. In the Narada Pancharatra, it is very clearly described how each of the social orders can please the Supreme Lord. In the Bhagavad Gita 18:45 it is stated, Sve sve karmanya birata samsiddhim labate naraha. By executing one's prescribed duties, one can please the Supreme Lord. In the Srimad Bhagavatam Canto 1, Chapter 2, Text 13, also it is stated, Sanushtitas dharmasya sangsidhir haritoshnam. The perfection of duty is to see that by discharging one's specific duties, one satisfies the Supreme Personality of Godhead. When the Prachetas were performing sacrifices according to this direction, Narada Muni was satisfied to see these activities, and he also wanted to glorify Dhruva Maharaj at that sacrificial arena. I'll just read two more. Yasta devarshina tatra varnita bhagawatsaptaha mayam shushushave brahman kartsnyena chashtamarasi. My dear Brahman, how did Narada Muni glorify the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and what pastimes were described in that meeting? I am very eager to hear of them. Kindly explain fully about the glorification of the Lord. Purport. Srimadbhagavatam is a record of Bhagavad-gita, topics about the pastimes of the Lord. What Vidura was anxious to hear from Maitreya, we can also hear 5,000 years later, provided we are very eager. Maitreya vacha dhruvasya chotkala putra pitara prashtite vanam sarvabhauma shriyam naicha dirajasanam pituhu. The great sage Maitreya replied, My dear Vidura, when Maharaj Dhruva departed for the forest, his son, Utkala, did not desire to accept the opulent throne of his father, which was meant for the ruler of all the lands of this planet. Alright, so we'll stop there, and then tomorrow, text 7. Utkala. Right? Yeah, tomorrow's text 7. For Mukunda and Jamal. So there'll be no mistakes, right? Om Meganativarandasya Kananjana Shalakaya Chakshuvan Malitamena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Makam Karivachalam Pangam Nangaite Girim Tamaham Vande Shri Gurun Diditaranam Vacha Kaptrubhishcha Kripasandivevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namanamaha Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So in the disciplic succession, within all bona fide disciplic successions, there may be slight differences, and there are slight differences of philosophical understanding upon within different disciplic successions, from Sri Lakshmi, from the four Kumaras, from Brahma, from Shiva. So there's slight differences in philosophical understandings, as we all know. And also, there are differences in goal, and what is the goal? What is the understanding of the supreme goal? For example, the Gaudiya Vaishnavas, for the Gaudiya Vaishnavas, the goal is described. I mean, of course, devotees could enter different relationships with Krishna, but so much of Gaudiya Vaishnavism is gearing one towards, as we sing every day in Tulsi, the Tulsi Arti song, to be a gopi or a manjari, right? So, and to serve Radha and Krishna in that way, and serve the devotees in that way in the spiritual world. So there are differences in understanding. There's also differences in understanding of the goal. But within all disciplic successions, bona fide, authentic disciplic successions, there's one idea that everybody agrees on. And that specific idea is that, by Rupa Goswami says, Shruti Smriti Puranadi Pancharatrak Vinim Vina, akantaki harir bhaktir utpai daiva kalpate. And that is that devotional service has to be done, has to be performed according to the revealed scriptures, or else it's just a disturbance in society. So, in other words, mental concoctions, speculations, new ideas that come into sampradayas, they are to be rejected because devotional service has already been described. What exactly is devotional service and how to engage in it. For example, there's a certain process, and it's described in Narada Pancharatra and other books, how to worship the deity. So we don't have to speculate and come up with all different types of concoctions how to worship the deity. We worship the deities a certain way, according to the revealed scripture, or else it's just a disturbance in society. Of course, when devotees are on different levels, you could say maybe some spontaneous levels, which shouldn't be so easily seen to be so easily obtained or imitated. They may deal with Krishna in different ways than we do, or than devotees who are not on that level do. So in other words, they may not follow certain rules, not because they're lazy or they're trying to, get around doing certain things, but just out of their spontaneous affection, they may do certain things that are just not out of the ordinary, that are little to, you could say, Vaishnavas on a lower level of spontaneity or no spontaneity. They think, oh, this is kind of weird, what this person's doing. For example, Prabhupada was within India, and he was at somebody's house, and this is from Watering the Seed, my spiritual master's book, His Holiness Giraj Swami describes this. They're at a house program, and then all of a sudden the group of ladies, they come in, and they're playing all types of different instruments, flutes, and I don't know, all types of kind of exotic instruments, coming in chanting Hare Krishna, just kind of like barge in when Prabhupada's in the room and start chanting Hare Krishna. So, and then devotees were kind of looking at him like, oh, this is kind of, because, yeah. So, and Prabhupada said, oh, they're spontaneous Vaishnavas, And he said that you have to learn to be Vaishnavas. They're just Vaishnavas. They're spontaneous Vaishnavas. So he appreciated their devotion. That was in India, in my spiritual master's book, Watering the Seed, he describes that. It's called spontaneous Vaishnavism, and then I'm not sure. Why, you want to go meet him? Yeah, I'm not sure where it was. So yeah, that's there. And I was thinking of another. I was thinking about Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was in the Jagannath Puri temple, and Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was really strict. I mean, he was like really strict, and he was really strict with his followers too, especially the sannyasis, in relation to association with women. And I mean, nowadays, what Lord Chaitanya was doing, we considered. I mean, I don't think it wouldn't fly within ISKCON, and probably get no women joining, because he would require all the women to offer obeisances from a distance. They wouldn't offer obeisances close because he's a sannyasi, and he shouldn't associate with women. He didn't. So he was a perfect sannyasi, and with his, I mean, there's that case with his disciple Chota Haridas. I mean, Chota Haridas was banished, and Lord Chaitanya said, I never want to see him anymore, and he actually committed suicide, and he was acting as a Gandharva singing for Lord Chaitanya. But anyways, but in this particular case with Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was taking darshan of Jagannath from the Garuda Stamba, right? And apparently some Mataji, some lady, some woman, devotee, very enthusiastic devotee, what did she do? She climbed on his shoulders, and she was, taking darshan of the deities. And then And then Govinda, the servant, what you could imagine, Mani, what are you doing? You got to get down, whatever he said. So I'm sure he said it more pleasantly, but Lord Chaitanya said, no, she was very enthusiastic to see Jagannath. So he, pretty much allowed her to do that. I mean, for some time. I don't know how long. I don't think it describes, but so when we get into the realm of spontaneity, but some of the, you could say, rules and regulations of the Shastra may not apply, but on the safe side, Srila Prabhupada always encouraged us to follow the rules and regulations of the scriptures, Narada Pancharatra and so many other books, or else we're just creating a disturbance in society. And part of that means that people will criticize us, people find faults with us, and people won't take us seriously, so we'll have a hard time. And Prabhupada actually wanted that. He wanted us to be taken very seriously, be accepted as Brahmins and as Vaishnavas but neglecting culture, neglecting different aspects, we just are seen as a laughing stock to serious Vaishnavas, which Prabhupada didn't like at all. So that's important. So therefore, we have Narada Pancharatra, we have srimadbhagavatam, we have so many literatures, Nectar Devotion, very important book. We have all these literatures to help us understand what is devotional service and how to engage in devotional service. And whatever other ideas we may have, mental concoctions or speculations or whatever they are, we at least have to not act on them in relation to engage in our devotional service. Because it is not always true that what we are thinking is good and that what activities based on our thinking we do is good. So we have a certain thought process, and then from that thought process initiates particular action on our part, and just because we think it's good doesn't mean it's always good. And in relation to this, Srila Prabhupada tells a story of his childhood. So Srila Prabhupada, in his childhood, we were just talking about this yesterday, he heard some shouting, some crying from the neighboring house within his neighboring homes nearby him when he was a boy. So he was wondering, what is this? So in traditional times, and around the world now still, people have servants or maid servants. So Srila Prabhupada engaged some of his servants to go see what was happening at that house. So then the servants went over there and talked to their servants, and then the servants came back and it was understood what happened. So what happened is one boy, an older brother in the family, he had typhoid disease. And his eating was restricted because if he would eat certain things, he would become sick and maybe even die. So, but his mother was making parathas, very nice. They're made out of, wheat, and they usually put potatoes, sometimes paneer, and then parathas, kind of pleasant thing. So the mother made parathas, and the mother happened to leave, or she was not in the house somewhere, but something happened where the older brother asked the younger brother, hey, bring me some parathas. I'm really hungry, and I really like these parathas. So then the younger brother said, oh yeah, my younger brother, okay, my older brother over here, and brought him the parathas. So he ate those, and he became sick and whatever, almost died or whatever it was, violently sick. And then the mother found out about it. So when the mother found out about it, she went to the younger boy, and she started beating him. She started chastising and beating him, physically. And that's what the screaming was about in the neighboring houses. So So yeah, there's some interesting things about this. Is that that we could learn from this? Is that one is that she was trying to teach the son a lesson, by punishing him and saying that, don't think that you know better than me. Don't think that you know better than my mother or than your mother, because you don't, obviously. And also teaching them a lesson is that don't do that again. By punishment, people learn that, okay, I better not do this again. So that's what she was teaching. And also, apparently Bhaktivinoda Swami gathered from this was that sometimes good is bad, and sometimes bad is good. So sometimes good, for example, the boy trying to serve his elder brother. Yeah, I'm just trying to serve my elder brother. It's actually bad. Why? Because he was hurting him. Right? And sometimes bad, like the mother physically punishing the boy, is good. Why? Because by that the boy was understanding, okay, hey, I shouldn't think that I know better than my mother. And for him not to do such a foolish thing in the future, almost kill his brother or whatever, violently hurt his brother like that. So from this we could gather that not everything we think is good. Not everything we think is good. And not everything, and aside from that, is that as souls who are not fully surrendered to Krishna, most people aren't fully surrendered to Krishna, maybe partially surrendered to Krishna, sometimes. But if we're not surrendered to Krishna fully, that means we're weak. And that means we're prone to error, and that means we're prone to fall down, actually. So what does that mean practically? That means that until we understand that one, not everything I think is good, and two, I'm weak. Until we understand that, we're not advanced, and until we understand that, we actually won't make any advancement, practically speaking. We'll make a little advancement, but not much. There's a quote in the Chaitanya Charitamrita in relation to this. It says, I haven't memorized this, but Zach has, but Zach's not here, so can't call on him. Maybe we call him on the cell phone. Hey, Zach, what's that verse? We did that one time with Javita Prabhu. Javita Prabhu was in Florida, and we called him because no one was here. No one could tell us what the meter was in the Bhagavatam. So the verse is, Durgame patimendasya skalat pada gatir muhu sakripa yastinad danena shanta santvavallambanam. So this is Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami, who's like the personification of humility. And everybody thinks about humility, they think of Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami. My path is very difficult. I am blind and my feet are slipping again and again. Therefore, may the saints help me by granting me the stick of their mercy as my support. So it's not that I have my own stick, of mercy for my support, but I need to get the stick of mercy from the saints, from the devotees. They need to give me the stick of mercy so I could, have some support. So in other words, by the association of the Vaishnavas, we get the support, the needed support, as Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami is bringing to our attention in this verse. So yeah, that needed support is absolutely necessary. Or else we fall down, and aside from falling down, we hurt ourselves, and we may even commit spiritual suicide. So many things. Recently I just heard this story, true story. There was a man here in SanDiego from a very wealthy I guess on some level maybe aristocratic man, but at least wealthy, but foolish, as you'll see from the story. Living here in the higher planetary systems of La Jolla, and one of the very exotic, expensive parts of La Jolla. He was living on Black Gold Lane, it's called. Black Gold Lane. I don't know. Come with that name, but so he was living there, and somehow or other he was in his 60s. I mean, fairly not young, but not, he says 80 or 90, but he was early 60s. So he had some disease in which he couldn't keep his balance. So he actually required a cane, or he required a walker. But he was just so puffed up, he couldn't accept that hey, I need a walker, I need a cane. So he would just no walker, no cane, just nothing. And he would keep on falling down, fall down, fall down, fall down. You think you get the idea, hey man, maybe I should get a cane. And interesting enough, I heard he was actually a physician too. He's a doctor. I mean, doctor, heal thyself, right? But he kept on no cane, fall, and then one day he fell, and that was it. He left his body. He died early because of his pride. So that's something that we need to check. If we're free from it, okay, great. We don't need to check it because we're free from it. So, but if we're not free from it, which there's different degrees. Maybe there's a very high degree of pride, or low degree, or medium, or sometimes we're more proud than others, or whatever. Whatever the case is, there's certain things that we are required to check, means to control. Vacho vegam manasakroda vegam, the anger, the tongue, the belly, genitals, mind, anger, speech, all these things we have to control, the urges. So also pride, control. Because if we don't control it, then it could create havoc, as in this guy's life. And we should want to surrender to Krishna. Dharmaraj, we were talking yesterday, and we're talking about how people, they don't want to surrender to Krishna. They just like surrender to their senses. And we were talking about, like in that verse in the Bhagavad Gita, Sarvadhamam prityaja mam ekam sharanam vraja. Give up all religious paths, all dharmas, and just surrender to me. I shall protect you. In other words, don't worry, I'll make you happy. Krishna's saying, pretty much, you'll be happy. So we're talking that people, the senses are saying, just surrender to me, right? Just follow my urges. Just whatever the senses desire, just go for it. Yeah, give up all religious principles. Give up all religious practices. Just engage in my service, and I will protect you. I'll make you happy or whatever. And then people surrender. Oh yeah, they fully surrender, right? Sharanagati, fully surrender to their senses. So, but Prabhupada would say over and over and over again. But that's just mad, and that's animalistic. He said it in the class one day. It was like, I was laughing about it. Thought it was funny, but he said he was out on book distribution one day, and he was talking with some guy, and the guy said, "Yeah, if the senses, whatever the senses want, I just go for it. That's how I live my life." And then Tirthamarsh said that he didn't mean to say this, and he didn't mean to offend him, but he said, "Oh, so what's the difference between you and an animal?" That's what he told the guy. So I thought that was fun, but I don't know what the guy said, but he probably offended or something, but who knows. So therefore he said, control, we have a higher responsibility. our primary duty is our primary goal in life. Our topmost goal is to love for Krishna, the spiritual world, and the senses. It's a temporary. We're not the body. So many Prabhupada would say over and over again. So, yeah, to remind ourselves that yes, this is the goal and this is what I'm going for, and to know, as this purport saying, as Prabhupada saying the purport, that there's different ways of pleasing Krishna. Everybody has their service, different services, and Krishna is pleased with different services. That's variety is the mother of enjoyment. I mean, if you can imagine the spiritual world, if everybody was just serving Krishna the same way, kind of boring, right? But there's different relationships. Why? Because it's a variety, it's the mother of enjoyment. Like I was reading, which I never read before, it's quite interesting, that in the spiritual world there's rain and there's also hell. And I was reading, this is a Kavi Karnapur, one of our chart, I was reading, and he was saying how sometimes the hell would fall, and then Krishna would be hiding out in the cave of Govardhan, hiding from the hail or whatever. And then the cowherd boys would go grab the hail, and then they would offer to Krishna's lotus feet as like flowers or something. That's pretty much all he said in relation to that. But so you have all these different relationships that Krishna has with others. So similarly within this world, we all have different services, or we may have the same services, but variety is Krishna appreciates. Different devotional expressions from the devotees. So if Krishna appreciates it, we should also appreciate it. We should also appreciate other devotees, their services, what they do, and not think, oh, well, because they're not doing my service, Krishna must not be pleased with them because I'm doing the best service, my category of service. But Prabhupada would say, cleaning the floor, right, in Krishna Balaram temple, with Krishna and Balaram, which, the blackish and whitish forms, right, black and white Krishna Balaram. And the Krishna Balaram floor is black and white, the tile. So he said, oh, it's the same, Krishna accepts it as the same service. So to appreciate that, other devotee services. So yeah, here Narada Muni, and he's going to start to glorify transcendental qualities of Dhruva Maharaj, and then he's going to talk about Utkala, the Dhruva Maharaj's son. We're going to hear about tomorrow. And as Prabhupada says, this is Bhagavat Gita, recorded. Bhagavatam is a record of Bhagavat Gita, and this is what Vidura was anxious to hear from Maitreya, we can also hear 5,000 years later, provided we are very eager. So to become eager, of course we hear that all the time, right? Eager, eager, eager. So hopefully over time we're becoming more eager after hearing it so many times. How many times do we have to hear to become... how many times do we have to hear, oh, be eager, be eager, be eager, before we actually become eager? So hopefully we're developing our eagerness. That's the whole point, not just to mention, oh, become eager, and then we don't become eager, but to become, actually follow it. So that's the idea. All right, does anyone have any questions? Roll my eyes, yes. Or comments? Or anything you'd like to say about?
Just one thing, two things. One is about that last point you just made.
Uh-huh.
That's an important question. How to become eager.
Yeah.
But that's right there in the second chapter. First canon, that Shushu Sho verse.
Yeah.
By serving the pure devotee, one becomes eager to hear. One gets the taste to hear. Becomes so it's something practical we can do.
Yeah.
Even though you may be so eager to hear Krishna Katha, there's service you can do, and if you do the service and you're conscious you're doing it, then you become eager. The other thing is, you may remember one of Rajendrananda Prabhu's classes. We were talking about how Krishna comes down. He's the swift deliverer.
Yeah.
But it's always Vishnu who does that, and whereas Krishna, actually bringing back, because Krishna's saying that, and so I was listening to a lecture of Prabhupada, and he said something interesting, which wasn't something new, but the fact that he brought it into the context, because going back to Godhead, the Bhagavad Gita is filled, with statements about how if you do this, you go back to Godhead, you go back to the spiritual world, But then in the Krishna book, you read, and also CC, I think about it, well, it's an intermediary step. You go to where Krishna is appearing now in the material world, and you get further trained in your particular service for Krishna. Whereas, the Goloka Vrindavan is filled with these extreme varieties of rasas, which you don't find in Vaikuntha. You don't find friendship rasa, you don't find parental rasa, with the speaker of Madhurya rasa. So what Prabhupada said there in the lecture is that, yes, you practice Krishna consciousness, you go back to Godhead, or you go to the place where Krishna is. In other words, he was making that point. And then he described that passage in the CC where you go to the, So I think that's why. Because if you're really absorbed in Krishna Leela and rasa, then you're not ready to go right to Goloka. You have to get training personally, to perfect that relationship. And then you go back to Goloka when Krishna leaves that planet. Then you go back and to Godhead. I think that's what the difference is. That's why you don't find Krishna personally coming down and taking devotees back to Godhead from the training stage, from the sadhana stage.
Devotees are working hard to try to, deliver people and free people and help them go back to Godhead. And it is interesting that all the time Krishna sends whatever the Vishnu Dutas or whoever he sends to pick up souls back and bring them back to the spiritual world. And I guess it's not clearly stated, or at least, we're discussing this and why that exactly so. That Krishna sends his devotees to come pick them up, and why doesn't he come personally? Yeah. Yeah. I don't know, because sometimes Prabhupada would use this. Prabhupada would use this. You'd say crude examples like, if you want to see the President of the United States, you can't just barge into his room and see the President of the United States and this and that. You have to be invited, and But I was thinking, whatever, it's just an idea. But I was thinking that when you go to see an important personality, it's not that you just he necessarily comes out and takes you in, but he's waiting there in his quarters. And one of his people, they bring you in, and here he is, Mr. President, you could talk with him or whatever. So whatever, there's forgive me. So that, at least on a logical point of view, makes sense, but scripture and this and that, we don't know. But does anyone have any other questions or comments? Panihati Chidadahi Maha Utsab is this Saturday at 11 a.m. So His Holiness Indrajimna Swami will be there, and His Holiness Giraj Swami, and a bunch of devotees from LA and Laguna and SanDiego. So it's a really nice festival. If everybody can make it, it'd be nice. So, Jai. Grantraj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai. Panihati Chidadahi.